Okay, everybody. Let's rock. That show you watched has come to an end. Okay, so Twin Peaks. It was a very bizarre experience tonight, as it's been for most of the episodes. The first episode, the penultimate, the right before the actual final episode, is to me the episode that everyone wanted. Like, everything everyone wanted was in that episode. Some things were left out, but it was satisfying. It was exciting. At times it was freaky and scary, but it was mostly cohesive. Um, and I was tooting my own horn as I was watching with a friend of mine because something I guessed I was actually right about. And that's based on logic from the TV show Westworld, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, Agent Cooper, the Mitchum brothers, and the three girls that work for the Mitchum brothers on their way to Twin Peaks in the Mitchum brothers vehicle. Only problem is, Doppelkoop is already there. And he goes to the Rabbits... Oh my god, was it Rabbits... Jack Rabbits... Oh my god, I forget the name of it. I apologize. But it's the place out in the woods with the smoke coming out of the ground. And Doppelkoop goes there, and he's looking for what we find out is possibly called Jadao. But, because time has gone forward, Jadao is known as Judy. So when Philip Jeffries said, well now, we ain't going to talk about Judy. We ain't going to talk about Judy at all. We're going to keep her out of it. That's what he was talking about. Jadao. And Jadao is an extremely powerful negative force of energy. Like evil, or just like terrible. And I'm still believing that Jadao was whatever was in Sarah Palmer. Also known as Mother, the creature that tore up those two young kids in the New York loft where the glass box was. This isn't Sonic, Birdman, but welcome to the final Twin Peaks stream. So I believe that's what Jadao is. However, we're never told. We are not specifically told what Jadao is. We don't know what happened with Audrey. It honestly feels to me on some level like they could do another season. And I don't know. I'm just really surprised that there were certain things. I love David Lynch. I've loved just about everything the man's done. But even compared to David Lynch's movies, I felt that there were so many things just left untouched. So many characters that had 2, 3, 4 scenes throughout the season, and then nothing came of it. It just seems so damn bizarre to me. I'm comparing to the original Twin Peaks. I'm comparing this to Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, Lost Highway, even Inland Empire. Because for that, I was even able to kind of piece together, okay, this is what's happening. And it seemed for the most part, the scenes had a meaning to be there. This was like a TV show with 10 to 20% of the scenes, while being good performances and interesting, they may not have even have been necessary. Entire characters that may not have been necessary. I mean, that's insane. So, we go back to the so Doppelkoop goes to the Jack Rabbit's place, and he thinks he's going to be finding Jadao, or Mother, it seems. He's looking for that symbol, that bizarre-looking symbol he's been looking for. And he gets trapped in what's possibly the White Lodge. They have not come forward and said it's the White Lodge, but he's like imprisoned in what looks almost like a Rubik's Cube but it definitely looks like it's a prison. And Doppelkoop is inside there, and on the other side, that's on one side of the screen, is the disembodied head of Major Garland Briggs, floating. And the giant shows up, and he goes, and he pulls up on his, like, projecting screen the Palmer house, but then he swipes it like it's a gigantic iPad, and he moves the Palmer house to show a house that's like next door to it. Now that finally makes sense in the last episode a little bit. And then imprisoned Bob is sent from the White Lodge back into Twin Peaks, and oddly enough, right to the Twin Peaks Sheriff Station. So he's standing outside of it, and Deputy Andy sees him and says, Agent Cooper, because that's who he thinks it is, and that's who it looks like. And Doppelkoop pretends to be Cooper, and he goes inside, and he's like all friendly and everything with Andy. He's friendly with Lucy, and then Lucy goes and gets actually, I don't think it was Lucy. Andy goes and gets Sheriff Truman, which, you know, isn't Sheriff Harry Truman, it's his brother. So they go, and they're talking, and he's in the office. All of a sudden, a phone call comes in from an interesting source. And Lucy picks it up, and it ties into an earlier scene in the series where Lucy picks up a phone call and doesn't understand how cell phones work. And it's this really bizarre, weird scene, but it was funny. And it comes back in such a fascinating way. So this call is transferred, and the new Sheriff Truman is like completely stoic-faced, hearing who it is. It's actually the real Agent Cooper. So here's Truman in his office with an imposter that looks exactly like Dale Cooper and sounds like him. And he's like, you know, being very careful not to let on what's happening. And he's having a conversation with the actual real Cooper, being told that if there's someone else there in the office that they need to be careful, and that's not him, this is going to be a very bad type of situation. So he does his best to make it look like, you know, it's all good and everything. And Doppelkoop goes, and he's looking at him. He's looking at him intently, Truman, and realizes something's up. So he reaches for his gun, and he pulls it to shoot Truman. All of a sudden, blam! Doppelkoop is shot. Shot by, of all people, Lucy. Goofy Dingbat Lucy shoots Doppelkoop. And it was wild. It was just like, oh my god. Now what's neat about this is Andy was in, again, possibly the White Lodge. We don't know for sure it's the White Lodge. Everyone believes it is, and I think it's very possible it was the White Lodge. But he was in the White Lodge talking to the giant, also known now as the fireman, and the fireman showed him a number of images, almost like he was programming things into Andy's mind. And one of those was a conversation between Lucy and Andy, but we didn't know what the conversation was. Something was just said. And all of a sudden, Andy goes, very important, and Lucy ends up going in and then shooting Doppelkoop. So it seems that the whole very important thing might have been like a secret phrase that, you know, something was really bad and that she needed to shoot. Because it's possible that all the information was relayed to Andy. We don't know for sure. So Doppelkoop is shot, and everyone's sort of freaking out. At this point, the real Agent Cooper gets there, and he's there with the Mitchum brothers. And also, out of the prison, we have Freddy and James Hurley. So they're all in Truman's office. Doppelkoop falls to the ground dead. He's dead. All of a sudden, flashing lights, everything gets dark, the woodsmen show up. Again, they're like phased out of reality. And they go over to the dead body of Doppelkoop, and they're like phasing in and out of reality, and they're like going and like taking the blood from when he was shot and rubbing it on his face, and then like rubbing his entire body. So when this happened, I'm gonna take a sip of coffee, everybody, and just a little bit of pie. Went out all out. I actually got Baker's Square pie today. Blueberry. That's the pie almost falls off the plate. So, the woodsmen are there doing their bizarre incantation. Some of the people who believe the woodsmen are actually the Dugpa, the ancient Tibetan sorcerers. Or that they were trained by the Dugpa, and that's what they're doing is magic to bring it back. So, what happens initially when the woodsmen show up after Cooper is shot by Ray, who we found out earlier in this episode is an undercover informant, which was very interesting and made much more sense with the storyline. Well, at that point, Cooper got shot, falls to the ground, Dugpa show up, they do the blood thing and all that, and then out of his stomach, this sphere is seen, and in the sphere is the killer Bob. We see the killer Bob's head inside this sphere. And then basically the Dugpa keeps doing their thing, and Doppelkoob wakes up. This time it's a little different. The sphere doesn't just show itself, it completely comes out of Doppelkoob, as if it's done with him, or if it was as if it was drawn out, because actually the actual Cooper is now there. It's hard to say exactly what happened. It could have been just that it was discarding him like he was garbage, because it got to Coop and now could actually have a fight with him. So this giant sphere, Darklings, then I'm happy you're here. I really appreciate that. It's awesome of you. But yeah, this is gonna be this is the talk show for the final 2 episodes. So I'll totally understand if you don't want to watch, because we're talking about now the second to last episode. But it's good to see you anyway. Thank you. So the sphere comes out, and it's this giant black orb with Bob's head in it. And it goes, and all of a sudden Freddy goes, "This is my destiny." And you know he has his green hand, and the orb comes flying at Freddy, and he punches it. He hits it hard, and it's like shaken up by it. It's like really crazy. So then it attacks Freddy. It hits him. It goes after him again. Freddy punches the orb again, and it's hit. And then it like goes and falls to the ground, and then leaves a crater in the ground. Again, they're in the office. They're in the office of Truman, and there's a big hole now in the floor, and the flames start coming out of it. And you're sitting there like, what in the hell is going on? Then the orb, like reformed, comes out of the hole and attacks Freddy again, and Freddy punches it, and this time it separates into all these black pieces, like basically Bob being defeated, and those pieces float up through the ceiling, like out of phase with reality, up through the ceiling, and they're gone. And Cooper says that, you know, basically Freddy's done a good job, that, you know, that's done, that's over. But what's weird about this is, once that happens, Agent Cooper is superimposed over the entire image that we're watching as all these events are taking place. And Cooper goes to the woman who's named in the credits Nido, and goes and basically touches her hand, and when he does that, her face opens up, and we realize she's the real Diane. The real Diane, which is actually something I've posted in chat boards and stuff, because Naido, N-A-I-D-O, is Oh Diane. If you take the letters and rearrange them, it's O Diane. There's just no E. But it still comes to O Diane. D-I-A-N. So I thought that would be her, and I was right. So that was pretty crazy. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna have another little bit of pie. It's slippery fucking pie, man. It's crazy. It's like wants to go right off the plate. So then, Diane, Cooper, and now Gordon Cole, they basically are teleported from the office to the basement and boiler room of the Great Northern Hotel. Moments before this, Truman gives Cooper the key he had from the Great Northern, key with number 315. So they go in the basement and they go to this door. Cooper puts in the key and turns the door handle. The door opens. And the insane humming sound that Benjamin Horne and the Ashley Judd's character heard earlier, like in a couple episodes, that's heard again. And they both, all three of them, I apologize, no. Cooper walks in there. Diane and Cole are told to stay and not go inside and follow him. He goes inside, and he's in the place above the convenience store. Or if we just call it the convenience store, I'm not exactly sure at this point. And he's walking through, and all of a sudden, the one-armed man shows up, Philip Gerard, and also known as Mike. And he does... Through the darkness of futures past, the magician longs to see one chance out between two worlds. Fire, walk with me. And he does that to Coop, and then they go from the convenience store back to the quasi-weird hotel or motel where Philip Jeffries is. And Coop has another conversation with Philip Jeffries, only this time it's the real Coop and not Doppelcoop. And he needs to know a certain period in time. Philip Jeffries says, be specific. And Cooper says 1989 and gives an exact date. And right before this chance meeting, the magician is on the staircase in the above the convenience store, and he moves past. So after the chance with the magician, there's the magician right there. So he might have opened up the doorway for them to talk to Jeffries here. I don't know. Doppelcoop may not have needed to do that, but the magician was, though, in the actual room, the main room of the convenience store. Again, above the convenience store, but that's just such a weird thing to say. So, the owl cave symbol, the two antennae break off of it, and it forms a diamond. And the diamond's there in the sky, okay, or in the air. And then the diamond configures itself into an 8. Now that's interesting because an 8 is also a sign for infinity, or something that looks very much like an 8. Maybe not exactly an 8, but very much like it. So that's pretty wild. What happens next is mind-blowing. One thing this Twin Peaks has done amazingly is repurpose old footage from its original self. Especially scenes from Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me and other episodes, including the pilot of Twin Peaks. So, the whole thing about the 1989 and needing a specific time, that was so Cooper could meet Laura Palmer and stop her from being killed by Bob. which is insane. I just sat there like, oh my god, that is completely insane. So they have these scenes from Fire Walk with Me, and while they're going on, it's a scene between James and Laura, and they're in the forest. And these scenes are right from Fire Walk with Me, but now Cooper is in the woods watching them from a distance. So what's amazing about this is in Fire Walk with Me, as Laura is talking to James, she sees something in the woods. Keep in mind, this is the 1992 movie. She sees something in the woods, she freaks out and screams. And she says, I believe it's trying to get out or it's trying to get in. So Cooper was trying to get out of the Black Lodge for 25 years, roughly. Trying to get in, I believe they used that term when he was trying to remember everything and come back to our world and not as Dougie. So it's insane to me that David used that scene where Laura's reaction and everything actually now means that Cooper was there. And then there's an amazing scene where Laura's about to go with Leo and everything like that, and they're just waiting there. They're just waiting, and Laura doesn't show up. Well, Cooper reveals himself to Laura, and Laura remembers him from the dream in Fire Walk with Me, where Cooper says, "Don't take the ring, Laura." And they have this neat conversation there. And then she's like, "Where are we going?" And Cooper said, "We're going home." He takes Laura's hand and he walks with her through the forest, leading her. And he does that, and then he looks back every now and then at her. And then a moment later, we hear the weird type of insect sound that was played in the first episode when the giant played the Victrola for Cooper in what is possibly the White Lodge. That weird sign of scratching sound that almost sounds possibly like an insect. And Cooper turns and looks again. Laura's gone. And then there's a sound of like screaming, and she's just gone. So the idea that Agent Cooper or actually nobody can rewrite the past. So that's interesting because it ties into, is it future or is it past? Which is mentioned 3 or 4 times throughout the series. That exact line. Is it future or is it past? So there's no way for him to actually change the past. What happens then is there's a amazing scene where Pete Martell, who found Laura's body wrapped in plastic and dead, goes out fishing and just walks right by on the pathway. And it's crazy because that's not what he does in the original footage, and the actor's dead, Jack Nance. So we're trying to figure out if it was a different actor or what exactly, or if it was some insane trickery. But yeah, no Laura Palmer wrapped in plastic. She's just gone. Okay, and then we have a scene where Sarah Palmer is in the Palmer home, but not where we see her. We can just hear crazy noises, possibly from the kitchen. And then she appears, and she picks up the picture of Laura, and she smashes it onto the ground. And then she's like smashing it over and over as the glass around the picture is rebuilding around it. And I can't tell if she was upset that Laura didn't die the initial way that she did, or what it was exactly. Because based on what we saw, it's not the exact same thing where Laura died in the same way. And then that comes into the final episode, after Julie Cruz plays music for us in possibly the Black Lodge. It's good pie, but it's insanely sweet. Like, what I mean for that is, as sweet as you think a pie would be, and this is sweeter. I've never really had Baker Square pie. I figured I'd just get one for the final episode, because we always have a piece of donut or pie or something with our coffee for the episode. So then that leads us into the final episode. And we're still kind of heartbroken that, you know, things didn't work exactly like we thought with Laura. And then what happens is Cooper in the Black Lodge. And it's very similar to the very first episode. Is it future? Is it past? That's said again. And then we meet the arm, but this time it's not just this dendrite thing. Well, it is the same looking thing, yes, but that's called the evolution of the arm. This time it just calls itself the arm, and it asks, is this the story of the little girl that lived on the lane? So that's different. That's not what the arm or the evolution of the arm said before. So they're kind of setting up things that, like, okay, these are things that are similar but slightly off. So then what happens is the one-armed man basically beckons Cooper that he's able to leave the Black Lodge. And this time, nothing stops him. Nothing makes him non-existent. He's able to actually leave. And once he leaves the Black Lodge, Diane is there waiting for him. So he and Diane go together, and they get in a vehicle, and he's driving, and there's like a lot of driving and a lot of silence in this episode. But they go to, and they see like these power cables, fucking like power transformers and things like that, and power lines. Okay, as they're driving, and Coop is like feeling something or seeing something in them. Similar to how Doppelkoop was actually able to follow them and get to places. And they get to a point where they realize it's exactly 430 miles to go. The number 430 was mentioned to Coop either by the fireman or the one-armed man. I apologize, I don't remember exactly who it was. So that number has a special meaning. So they go, he follows the power lines, and he's talking about it's going to take them to another place, somewhere else. It is good, but it's just really sweet pie. Maniac. It's not bad pie, it's delicious, but it's really sweet. I feel like my teeth want to just explode. And so they end up driving, and it seems like normal, just like regular driving, that they didn't actually go any place or anything like that. And they go to this small motel, which looks a lot like the motel in Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, or the one that they access from the above the convenience store. So I don't know if it's the same one. I can't tell because they show it at different angles. But it kind of looks like it. I'd have to see the episodes again to know. And then, I kid you not, it's about 10 minutes of Dale Cooper fucking Diane in the motel room. And it's really weird, though, because Diane is never looking at Cooper. She's looking up at the ceiling as if there's someone there watching. It's really unsettling. It's not like romantic where they're looking into each other's eyes and everything. She's basically riding him and just looking at the ceiling the entire time. And they go at it, like I said, about 10 minutes. It's pretty crazy. It might be just 5, but it seemed like a lot of time. So then, cut to Cooper alone in the bed, waking up, and he sees a note on the nightstand. And it says, Richard. And then it has this whole story, this whole thing about, and then signed Linda. So it could be that wasn't Diane, that was Linda. And it could be that because and I need to watch it again. I don't believe she says, "Is it really you?" to Cooper, but I don't think she actually says, "Cooper, is it you?" I don't think she says the name. I think she thinks it's someone named Richard, and I'm still trying to understand that. Now, the only Richard we know of is Richard Horn, who turned out to be Doppelkoop's son, although it's never fully explained how. And she basically is left, and there's that note. Now, this is interesting because I believe it was the fireman now, in the White Lodge who says, Richard and Linda, two birds with one stone. So what he could have meant is that in one reality, there's Dale Cooper, and another reality, he's Richard, and one reality, it's Diane, the other, it's Linda. So Cooper alone goes and he drives and he sees a diner. The diner is called Judy's. This is important because of Jadao, or the evil, dark, malevolent force that was mentioned in the previous episode. So he goes here and he's basically goes and he's like about to order some food, and these three trucker guys start picking on a waitress, and he basically says, you need to stop doing that and leave her alone. They walk over, they are all packing, and Cooper notices they all have guns. He goes and shoots the first one in the foot, falls to the ground. Then he from a sitting position, he does an insane kick on one of the other guys. And then the other person, he gets his gun and has him sit on the ground. He gets up, he talks to the waitress and said, there's another waitress that works here. Is she here today? And she's like, no. He goes, get me her phone number. And then Cooper goes and takes the guns from these guys and puts them in the fryer. Like the French fry fryer. He just tosses them in with the oil. And he says, I don't know exactly how bullets will react in the oil, so if I were you, I would move away. Now, what's weird about this is the way he's acting here is very much like Doppelkoop, but there's no indication for certain that it's Doppelkoop. For one thing, he just shoots the guy in the foot. He doesn't kill him. He doesn't kill the waitress that gives the phone number. He doesn't seem like malevolent at all, like truly evil. So then he goes and takes this address and goes to this house in Odessa, Texas, which is also where the diner was. And lo and behold, the door opens and it's Cheryl Lee with a southern accent standing in the doorway. And her name's Karen Page, which is crazy. I think Karen Page is the name of the woman from Daredevil, actually. I'd have to double check. But anyway, Karen Page, and she doesn't know anything about Laura, but she needs to get out of town. And Cooper walks in. We see a guy dead, sitting in a chair, bullet through his head, a shotgun sitting on the floor. And Cooper doesn't say anything about it. He doesn't mention it at all. Okay? Now, what's funny is, as I'm talking about this, you're probably like, how is this Twin Peaks? So he talks to her and says that basically he believes that she's Laura, and they need to go see Laura's mother. So that's the whole plan, a road trip to go to Laura's mother with Laura. So Cooper goes with her, Karen, who doesn't remember anything about Laura or anything like that, or anything about Twin Peaks, but she needs to get out of town because it looks like she killed either her boyfriend or her husband. So she's like, I'm going to get going while the getting's good. So they leave and they drive, and there's a lot of driving in silence, like for 5 minutes, okay? And then they end up in Twin Peaks, but it's deserted. Even if it's like late at night, it's deserted for Twin Peaks. It's like, looks completely empty now. Hey, Lost, how you doing? The pie looks dumb. It's absurdly sweet. As I mentioned, even for pie, it's really sweet. It's from Baker Square. But I don't think it looks dumb. It's good to see you, though, Lost. So then, as they're driving through Twin Peaks, Cooper asks Karen if anything looks familiar, anything at all. And she's like, no, nothing does. So then they go... Sorry, blueberry. It is damn good pie and damn good coffee. I'm sorry, Lost. It's for Twin Peaks. This is the last episode, so I decided to go with a really good pie. Not that I had bad pie before. Well, that one week we did. We had a crap blueberry pie from something called, like, something Lord. I don't even want to remember the fucking name. Jesse Lord? Jesse Lord. Terrible pie. Anyway. Let's get off the terrible pie subject. Let's see. You threw me off. It's hilarious. So they finally get to the Palmer house, and Cooper and Karen get out of the car, and they go to the door, and eventually someone answers, but it's not Sarah Palmer. And it's this woman who's standing there, and Cooper finds out, we find out as the audience, this is Miss Tremond. The house she bought from a Chalfont. Now, this should be red flags for everybody that knows Twin Peaks well. The grandson and grandmother in the original Twin Peaks, the grandson who was studying magic and basically made the cream corn disappear from the plate into his hands and seemed really creepy, that last name is Tremond. That's the same last name as the grandson and the grandmother. Also, the grandson may have been the magician, because at one point in Fire Walk with Me, he has this insane looking wax mask on with like a prolonged nose, like a pointed nose made of wax. And when we see the magician, his face looks like that with that nose. Also, the magician has a wand in his hand in Fire Walk with Me. The grandson has it in Fire Walk with Me at a later scene as he's jumping around as Leland leaves the motel after deciding not to pay to have sex with his daughter. And that sounds crazy. I'm sorry. I never thought about the wording for this. But anyway, it seems that the young boy could be the magician grown up, is what we see in the convenience store, possibly. I just realized how insane that entire sentence was. So, Tremond and then Chalfont. Now, to Fire Walk with Me. Chet Desmond, who disappears in Fire Walk with Me. He goes and checks out a trailer that is owned by a Chalfont. And it turns out the person that owned the space where that trailer is was another Chalfont. And it said 2 Chalfonts. Similar to 2 Coopers. So then, it's not Sarah Palmer. I was blousing. I mean browsing. I saw your little chestnut there, Lost. I saw it. So, nothing. It's not Sarah Palmer, nothing. And they just go and they walk away. And they go back to the car. But all of a sudden, Karen Page is looking at the Palmer house and starts freaking out. She starts losing it and screaming, just like she did in the Black Lodge when she was talking to Cooper. And she starts screaming, and then we show a close-up of the Palmer house, and there's this crazy sound effect, like electricity and everything, and then it like fades to black. And before that, I wanted to leave this as the final thing that said, Cooper screams, "What year is this? What year is this?" The final scene of Twin Peaks, the final scene is a looping scene of Cooper in the Black Lodge with Laura whispering into his ear. That's the final scene in Twin Peaks. It was crazy. So, this is where it gets interesting. We see the Palmer house, and the fireman does the shove in the previous episode. And it looks like another house that we're seeing, but it has elements of the Palmer house. It might have been something that he did. I don't know, and I don't understand the exact purpose. But based on her screaming and freaking out, Karen Page was like the reincarnation of Laura, and possibly what happened to Laura after Cooper tried to save her from being killed by Bob. Another possibility is it's another alternate reality. People had the ideas of alternate timelines, alternate realities, and the Twin Peaks, Secrets of History of Twin Peaks, seem to bear this out. That could be what we saw. It may not just be a wrong year, it might actually just be a completely alternate timeline. But it was mind-blowing. It was crazy. I liked it. I thought it was good, but my issue is this. There are so many things that were never touched. We don't know what the hell was going on with Audrey. We don't know if she's in a mental institution. We don't know if she was in some dark supernatural place. We don't know. There's the drug dealer Red, who seems to have the powers to control time, maybe, because he can take a coin, flip it in the air, and it stays there for 30 seconds. We don't know anything more about him. Nothing. There are tons of characters that are introduced that we get no information on. Some of them just have one scene. There's the young girl who was in the not Black Lodge, I apologize, who was in the Roadhouse, and all of a sudden she her table's taken, she's lifted out of it, and she's still sitting down, and then she's crawling on the ground and starts screaming in agony. We don't know what that means. We have no idea. And I don't know if there's gonna be another season or not. I kind of would like one, because this ending was even a crazier cliffhanger than the original ending. And it seems that Cooper and the reincarnated Laura are trapped in an alternate timeline now. It's insane. Now, the episode before that, though, I thought was amazing. And it was exciting, and it wasn't slow moving like the final episode. I feel, again, that's the ending that everyone's going to really like and gravitate towards. That episode there. But the final episode was wild and crazy. And all throughout the series, is it future or is it past, was mentioned. So, yeah, I mean, it was nuts. Does anyone have any questions on Twin Peaks or David Lynch? Or anything about any of the other episodes? All we can do now is assume that the insect thing that went over the young girl in 1956 was indeed Bob. Because we don't know. Also, Sarah Palmer may have been Jadao, also known as Judy, the dark malevolent force. In the book, it's called the Mother of All Abominations. In a TV show, it's called The Experiment. We also don't know for sure what was going on with the glass box and who paid for it. The glass box in New York, where the experiment came out of and killed the 2 young kids. Not kids, they were in their early 20s, I'm guessing. There's just so much that isn't covered. Yes, that's my thing, Dark Links. I expected not everything to be tied up completely. I totally expected that. But when there's been like probably about 15-20 minutes of scenes with Audrey and we have no idea actually what was going on with her, and they even ended the last episode with the reveal that, you know, she's in some alternate place, not to let us know what that meant or anything. That's crazy. Don't get me wrong, I still love it, and I'm looking forward to a Blu-ray with, you know, hopefully deleted scenes. There won't be commentary, but David Lynch might have some cool thing where he's talking about how he did certain effects and stuff, which would be fascinating. Interviews, things like that. I'm really looking forward to it. But I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and it was an insane experiment. If anything, the final episode reminded me of the mix between the movie Lost Highway and the movie Wild at Heart, especially the sex scenes between Diane and Cooper, which I thought we would never see. Never in a million years that I think we'd have almost 10 minutes of Cooper fucking. And fucking Diane, for that matter. If anything, I would have thought it would have been Audrey he would have banged. Or maybe if Annie was still alive. I still love the fact that Naito turned out to actually be Diane. That was crazy. The real Diane, not the Tulpa. Another wild scene, too, that isn't explained. When they go to that motel, Diane sees the Tulpa. The Tulpa of her is there. Unless she's the Tulpa. We don't know. We're just taking it on faith that this is Cooper and this is Diane. But I guess once we see that Tulpa there, that's off the table, that we can take it on faith. But yeah, I thought it was damn good. I really liked it. Yeah, as far as I know, there's not going to be another season. There is a book that comes out in October. It's called either The Last Dossier or The Final Dossier. And if you're a Twin Peaks fan and you want the book, it's only $13 on Amazon right now. Also, the soundtracks come out on Friday, believe it or not. That's soon. Actually, it might just be one of them. I'm not sure. But I know one of the Twin Peaks soundtracks comes out on Friday. Dark Links, yes, that's Naito. That's the same woman that Cooper saw when he was in the White Lodge. Or part of the White Lodge. It is good, Bird. It is delicious, but it's extremely sweet. It's sweeter than I'm used to with a pie. I know that sounds bizarre, but it's true. It's straight up true. I could tell you this: Doppelcooper goes into the same woods again. He goes in that same place where Naito was. It also seems too like Doppelcoop made a mistake and Cooper made a mistake. Like Cooper made a mistake thinking he was in the right timeline or right time. And he misjudged the trajectory that he used. And it seems Doppelkoop may have done the same thing. Because he was expecting to find Jadao or Judy, this evil force, and instead was imprisoned in the White Lodge and sent back to a specific area of Twin Peaks. It was crazy. You give that pie the finger? Well, okay. Fuck you, Pie. Fuck you. There, I gave the pie the finger. Okay, I'm not going to give it the finger for 3 minutes. That's a bit much. That would be cool, or if Showtime was like, hey, how about another 6 episodes, you know? Like, I don't know if David Lynch wants to do another 18 episodes, for God's sake. That's a lot. I don't know. I mean, this could just be the end, and it's a fascinating ending. What's weird about this ending, though, to me, it's more like Twilight Zone than anything. It ends like a really great Twilight Zone episode. Your finger's more powerful. But I just want to thank everyone for watching. You've been awesome, and this is the end of, 18 weeks of doing this. So, again, I might do another talk show. I'm not sure. If you want to check out my Discord, we talk about that stuff there. Not sure yet. I don't want to talk about too much right now because if people watch this on YouTube or something, I want it to be just mostly about Twin Peaks. So I want to thank you all for watching, and I want to thank everyone, too, that watched Twin Peaks, that got Showtime or whatever, that they were able to, do this show, and it's awesome. The Twin Peaks fans actually made this happen more than anything. Yeah, it's really great. And, yeah, I want to thank you all. I do apologize. There's certain comments in chat I can't fully comment on just because they would go completely out of the range of this stream. But I will be on Discord after this. Probably in about 20 minutes or so, maybe a little sooner. But I want to thank you all very much. And I might do this again. I thought this was a lot of fun doing a talk show for a TV series. And, I mean, if I'm going to choose any, Twin Peaks after 25 years... coming back seemed to be the best choice. So I will see all you guys later, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.